Hank sends in Tuesday's confession. Father Simon, Brother Matthew, Sister Katie Susie. This incident happened in the early spring of 1971. I was 19 years old and serving in Her Majesty's Royal Navy. This makes it a rare confession.
Yeah.
A confession from a member of the armed forces.
Because normally they don't never get through.
It's made it through the editing and strict production process. I had returned to the UK the previous August after a year's deployment to the Far East on HMS Andromeda, a Leander-class frigate. I haven't changed the names of the ships. I think it's okay, it's 1971.
Yeah, we're safe.
I was courting a young lady from my hometown when I left the UK, which would have been July 69, and during the time I was away, I received a Dear John. For the uninitiated, a Dear John is a letter from a sweetheart, usually to a serviceman, terminating the relationship. Some of the guys on the board had a Dear John waiting for them at our first port of call, en route to the Far East, which was Gibraltar, 3 days away by Royal Navy war canoe. It's like they couldn't wait to be rid of their other half. My Dear John arrived just 2 months prior to returning to the UK, so to say I was surprised would be an understatement, as her letters had been long, intimate and frequent. Being of tender years, I was 18 at the time, turning 19 in the upcoming November. It was no big deal really, and I only cried for a couple of weeks and walked around the ship in a permanent bad mood going, "Why me? Why me?" under my breath. Anyway, we move on, and later I met Gladys about October, November time in a then famous nightclub in Portsmouth called Joanna's. Again, I haven't changed the name of the nightclub, but it's 1971.
Okay.
Joanna's was the kind of nightclub where your feet would stick to the carpet as you walked in. Salubrious it wasn't, but what it was famous, legendary even, for meeting members of the opposite sex. Gladys was several years older than me and had come down to Portsmouth from Northumberland, heading out on the highway looking for adventure. Well, I hit it off with Gladys. We got fairly close as a couple. We were seeing each other many times a week for a couple of months. Being a Royal Navy sailor serving on a seagoing ship, it was inevitable that I was going to have to spend some time at sea. That's the nature of the gig. The ship had just undergone a very minor refit, which had kept us in harbour for a couple of months. Fate seemed to be smiling on me and my paramour. Alas, the bad news I'd been dreading finally arrived, and the ship was going out to the Mediterranean for a couple of months, and my short romance of a couple of months was to be tested. We'd only been apart for about a week when Gladys went home to see her folks over Christmas, and she'd phoned me on the ship. Yes, because mobile's not invented back then, she phoned on the ship. She'd written me lots of long and loving letters during this time. This relationship was looking good. When the ship sailed, she'd come down to the harbour to wave me off on my voyage, blew kisses and dried her eyes with a handkerchief. Everything was looking fabulous. Whilst away, we visited Gibraltar, Sardinia, Sicily and Toulon. Not relevant to this topic. This is a little postcard.
Nice bit of detail.
I was writing regularly and receiving regular letters in reply. As the time of our impending reunion grew ever nearer, I was filled with anticipation, not a little hope, that our relationship could be moving on to the next level. Moving in together, marriage, kids maybe. In my head, I'd already named them Horatio and Nelson. After... I don't need to finish that sentence. After Nelson, Horatio. Into Portsmouth Harbour we sailed after 2 months away, and as soon as I could, I was ashore and heading into town to meet Gladys. We met up and she asked if I wanted to go for a meal. I thought, well, this is it. Here we go. Family bliss starts right here. We went to a very expensive Chinese restaurant in town, and although she was quieter than normal, I put that down to nervousness because we hadn't seen each other for so long. We had a slap-up meal, all the courses, all the trimmings, best wine. I think we might even have had champagne, very rare for me. Anyway, it was very, very expensive. We had just about finished our meal when she leant in close. I followed suit and leant towards her, expecting a kiss. My eyes were half closed in anticipation of our lips meeting, our tender lips. My lips slightly parted, waiting for the kiss. "I've met someone else," she whispered.
Well, lovely voice. Voice of an angel, Gladys. Yes.
What did she say? Says I stand beyond words.
I've met someone else.
I've met someone else while you've been away. He's called Graham and he's got a sports car.
Oh, well, he would.
Well, I was gobsmacked. I couldn't think of anything to say except, oh, I'm just going to the toilet. Anyway, once I was in the toilet, I was sitting there asking myself, why would she choose a restaurant to tell me? Why couldn't we just got it over with in a bar, far less expensive? And in those far from enlightened days, Father Simon, before equality and equal pay, it was, rightly or wrongly, expected that the man would be paying for the night out. Well, blow that, I thought. Getting dumped and then being stuck with the bill too. Stuff that for a game of soldiers is what I said out loud in the cubicle.
Yeah.
So I exited via a fire escape instead.
Okay.
And went round the back and then surreptitiously round the front, and I peeked into the dining area. Brenda was just finishing off her dessert wine.
Gladys, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
Brenda was on a different table, from what we remember.
I thought I'd changed them all. Sorry, Brenda. Brenda. That's why she had a bad voice, because she was pretending to be. Oh, best laid plans.
Yeah.
Gladys. I think that's who it was.
Yeah, it was Gladys.
Was just finishing off her dessert wine, seemingly nonplussed at the bombshell she just dropped on me. So to my shame, I just thinned out, which is naval term for leaving, getting out of Dodge, disappearing. I never bumped into Gladys again,
Gladys.
nor did I ever go back to that restaurant. I'm asking for forgiveness from Gladys. I'm sure that's who it was, for thinning out, sticking her with the bill, which I think came to 3 figures, which back in the day...
3 figures?
Oh my
and possibly the Chinese restaurant, if Brenda was unable or unwilling to stump up for the meal, we'd have been back into the classic washing up scenario. Imagine that, like it happens in the movies. Anyway, I throw myself on your mercy, or even throw yourself in the mercy. Sister Katie Susie, what do you say to Hank, who is definitely in trouble?
Well, I say, Hank, you're not forgiven. I understand that's a really tricky conversation to have, but at least Gladys, she was willing to have that conversation in person. She could have sent you a letter. She could have done it over the phone, but she had the guts to tell you in person.
Yes.
And that's a lot of money to leave someone with the bill for. So, Hank, you're not forgiven.
A brother from another guy.
Well, there's 2 things here. One, I'm obviously going to forgive Hank. Who goes out for a meal to dump someone and then expects the other person is going to pick up the bill?
Well, Gladys.
Well, clearly
Brenda.
Gladys did. Well, absolutely disgraced. However, I'm not going to forgive this Chinese restaurant that's charging 3 figures for a meal for 2.
Yes, but
insane.
They were...
What's in these spring rolls?
They pushed the
wine,
boat
champagne.
out. They had fizzy wine and
They have
everything.
fizzy wine?
Yes.